Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. Today we are talking about two words that are genuinely among the most important and meaningful words in the English language. These words are about how we connect with other people, how we respond to their pain and struggles, and how we show that we care. And yet, many people, including native speakers, use them as if they mean exactly the same thing when they actually describe two very different kinds of human connection.
Yes, and understanding the difference between sympathy and empathy is not just about grammar or vocabulary. It actually changes how you communicate with people in difficult moments. Knowing which word to use and which feeling to offer can make a real difference in your relationships and in how people experience your support.
The two words today are sympathy and empathy. Let us start with the most important difference right away.
Sympathy is feeling concern or sorrow for someone else's situation. You acknowledge their pain and you feel sorry for them, but you're doing this from your own position, from the outside. You feel for them.
Empathy is understanding and actually sharing someone else's feelings. You put yourself in their position. You imagine what they are going through from the inside. You feel with them.
That distinction is the heart of everything. Sympathy says, I feel sorry for you. Empathy says, I understand what you're going through because I can imagine myself in your position.
Sympathy is looking at someone's pain from across the room and feeling sad for them. Empathy is stepping into their shoes and experiencing what it might feel like to be them.
One is observing and caring from the outside. The other is connecting and understanding from the inside.
Let me give you a very clear example. Someone tells you they have just lost their job. A sympathetic response might be, "That's terrible. I'm so sorry to hear that." You feel bad for them. You acknowledge their difficulty.
An empathetic response might be, that must feel so frightening and uncertain. I can imagine how stressful it is to wonder about the future. Here, you are trying to understand and reflect back their actual emotional experience, not just acknowledge the fact that something bad happened.
Sympathy focuses on the situation. Empathy focuses on the feelings behind the situation.
Now let's go deep into sympathy. Sympathy as a noun describes the feeling of care, concern, or sorrow you have for someone in difficulty. It's a genuine and kind emotion. It's not shallow or meaningless.
I have a lot of sympathy for what she's going through. He expressed his sympathy when he heard the news. Please accept my deepest sympathies. In all of those, sympathy is being offered to someone who is experiencing hardship or loss.
And sympathy is also used in the plural for condolences. When someone has died, you offer your sympathies. Please pass on my sympathies to the family. I would like to express my sincere sympathies.
And sympathy can also mean agreement or support for an idea or cause. He has sympathy for the protesters. She is in sympathy with the movement's goals. In this sense, sympathy means you support or agree with something even if you aren't directly involved.
A sympathy strike or sympathy vote comes from this meaning. Workers who go on a sympathy strike are stopping work in support of other workers, even though they themselves are not in the original dispute.
Now let me talk about some very important words that come from sympathy. Sympathetic is the adjective. She was very sympathetic when I told her what happened. He has a sympathetic manner. Sympathetic means showing sympathy or being capable of understanding and sharing feelings.
And sympathetically is the adverb. She listened sympathetically. He responded sympathetically to the news.
Sympathize is the verb. I sympathize with your situation. She sympathized with everything they were going through. To sympathize means to express or feel sympathy.
Sympathizer is a person who sympathizes with a cause or idea. Party sympathizers, people who support a cause without being full members.
Now let's go deep into empathy. Empathy is a deeper and more demanding kind of emotional connection. It requires effort. It requires imagination. It requires you to temporarily set aside your own perspective and genuinely try to inhabit someone else's.
Empathy means understanding what someone is feeling from the inside, connecting with their emotional experience rather than just acknowledging it from the outside.
She showed real empathy when she said she understood how alone the experience must feel. He has a rare gift for empathy. People felt truly understood in his presence. In those examples, empathy is about that deep connection that makes someone feel truly seen and understood.
Empathy is also used in professional contexts. Doctors, therapists, counselors, teachers, and leaders are often trained in empathy skills because the ability to understand someone's emotional experience makes you more effective at helping them.
Clinical empathy, developing empathy in leadership, empathy as a professional skill. These are all real topics in professional development and psychology.
And empathy is used more broadly to describe the ability to understand perspectives very different from your own. Empathy for people of different cultures. Empathy for historical figures. Empathy in literature means a reader connects deeply with a character's inner experience.
From empathy, we get empathetic as the adjective. She is an incredibly empathetic person. He gave an empathetic response. Empathetic means capable of or showing empathy.
Empathize is the verb. I empathize with his fear of failure. I can really empathize with that feeling. Empathize means to share and understand another person's feelings.
And empathetically is the adverb. She listened empathetically without interrupting or judging.
Now, let me compare sympathy and empathy directly in a few scenarios, because I think this is where the real understanding comes.
A friend tells you they are struggling with anxiety. A sympathetic response says, "I'm sorry you're going through that. It must be so hard." An empathetic response says, "I can imagine how exhausting it must be to have that constant worry in your mind. It takes so much energy just to get through the day."
The sympathetic response acknowledges the difficulty. The empathetic response tries to enter into and reflect the actual feeling, the constant worry, the exhaustion, the daily effort.
Someone tells you they failed an important exam. Sympathy says, "That's awful. I'm so sorry." Empathy says, "I know how much you put into preparing for that and how devastating it must feel when the result doesn't reflect your effort."
Sympathy is kind and caring. Empathy is deeper and more connecting. Both are valuable, but they offer different things.
Now I want to address something important. Sympathy is not lesser than empathy. They are different kinds of support, and both are needed in different situations.
Sometimes when someone is struggling, they need practical acknowledgement and sincere concern. Sympathy is perfect for that. Sometimes they need someone to really try to understand what they are feeling inside. That is when empathy is what they are looking for.
And being empathetic is not always easy or possible. Sometimes you genuinely cannot imagine what someone is going through because the experience is too far from your own. In those moments, honest sympathy is far better than false empathy.
Saying, "I cannot fully understand what you are going through, but I care deeply and I am here for you," is a deeply sympathetic and genuinely supportive response.
And saying, "I know exactly how you feel," when you actually do not, is a form of false empathy that can feel hollow or even dismissive to the person you are trying to support.
So both words represent real and valuable human responses. The goal is not to replace sympathy with empathy, but to understand what each one offers and to choose the right response for each moment.
Now, let's go through the most common mistakes learners make with sympathy and empathy.
Mistake number 1 is treating sympathy and empathy as identical, using one when the other would be more precise. In casual conversation, this often does not matter, but in professional writing and in conversations about emotional support, the distinction is meaningful.
Mistake number 2 is thinking empathy is always better than sympathy. Empathy is deeper, but it is also more demanding and is not always appropriate. Sympathy is genuine and valuable. Do not dismiss it.
Mistake number 3 is using sympathize when you mean empathize. I can sympathize with your fear of failure sounds correct and is correct, but if you want to say you truly understand from the inside, you would say, I can empathize with that fear. I have felt it myself.
Mistake number 4 is not knowing the sympathies in the plural is used for condolences when someone has died. Not knowing this expression means learners might miss a very important social use of the word.
Mistake number 5 is confusing sympathetic with empathetic. Sympathetic means showing concern and sorrow from the outside. Empathetic means showing understanding from the inside. A sympathetic doctor acknowledges your difficulty. An empathetic doctor really tries to understand what you are feeling.
Mistake number 6 is not knowing the sympathy strike and in sympathy with expressions. Hearing, I have sympathy for the cause, and not knowing that this means the person supports or agrees with the cause.
And mistake number 7 is overusing empathy in professional contexts to the point where it becomes a buzzword without real meaning. Empathy is a powerful word, and when used carefully, it carries real weight. Using it loosely or in every other sentence weakens its meaning.
Now, let's do a practice round. I'll describe a situation, and you choose sympathy, empathy, or the related form, and explain why.
Ready.
A colleague tells you she is very nervous about a presentation tomorrow.
Empathy. You can reflect her internal feeling. I can really empathize with that. Presentations can feel very exposing. Or you can show empathy by acknowledging her inner experience. That feeling of having everyone's eyes on you is genuinely nerve-wracking.
A friend's parent has passed away, and you want to acknowledge the loss.
Sympathy or sympathies. Please accept my deepest sympathies. I am so sorry for your loss. This is the standard sympathetic expression for bereavement.
A therapist sits with a patient and genuinely tries to understand the emotional experience behind their words.
Empathy. The therapist is practicing clinical empathy. They are entering into the patient's emotional world to understand it from the inside.
A manager is known for caring about her team and always being concerned when they face difficulties.
Sympathetic. She is a sympathetic manager. She shows concern and care for people going through difficulty.
A reader finishes a novel and feels as if they truly lived inside the main character's experience.
Empathy. The reader felt deep empathy for the character. They connected with the character's inner world.
Workers at a company stop work to show support for workers at a different company who are on strike.
Sympathy strike. They go on a sympathy strike to show support for the other workers.
Someone hears about a person losing their home in a flood and feels genuinely sorry and concerned.
Sympathy. They feel sympathy for the people who lost their homes, concern and sorrow from the outside.
A friend describes feeling invisible at school, and you say you remember exactly how that loneliness felt.
Empathy. You are connecting from your own experience to theirs. You are stepping into their feeling. I can empathize deeply with that feeling of invisibility.
Every answer was thoughtful and accurate.
And I hope listeners noticed the guiding question throughout. Am I acknowledging someone's difficult situation from the outside? Sympathy. Am I connecting with and trying to understand their inner emotional experience? Empathy.
Outside and acknowledging equals sympathy. Inside and understanding equals empathy.
Now, let me close with something that I think will help everyone feel the real importance of these two words beyond the grammar.
Please.
We live in a world where people often feel unseen and unheard. The ability to offer genuine sympathy and genuine empathy is one of the most powerful things one human being can give another.
And when you know the difference between these two words, you can be more precise about what you're offering someone and more honest about what you can genuinely give in any moment.
Sympathy says, I see your pain and I care. Empathy says, I am trying to understand what your pain feels like from inside. Both are gifts. Both matter.
And, as an English learner, knowing these words and their differences gives you the vocabulary to talk about emotional experience and human connection at a deep level. That's a significant achievement.
The fact that you are here learning these words shows care and curiosity, which are both forms of connection. Keep building your English and keep building the capacity to connect with others through it.
Thank you so much for being here today. We hope sympathy and empathy feel completely clear and that you feel genuinely ready to use both of them with confidence and with heart.
Keep going, and we'll see you in the next episode.